Thank you.
The NSA's terrorist surveillance program was implemented in the wake of the September 11th attacks to intercept al-Qaeda communications. The American public was told that al-Qaeda carried out the attacks alone with no state sponsors, but questions remain unanswered because 28 pages of the 9/11 Commission report remain classified to this day. One big question is, did Saudi agents assist the 9/11 hijackers? Joining us now is Jamie Reno. He's a correspondent at the International Business Times who has been covering this story for years and recently interviewed the two congressmen who are pushing to get the classified section of the 9/11 report public, and he joins us from San Diego tonight. And here in the studio is Vanity Fair contributing editor Craig Unger. He covered the Saudi government connection to 9/11 in Vanity Fair, and that article became the basis for his book, House of Bush, House of Saud, the secret relationship between the world's most powerful dynasties. It is great to have you both with us. Thanks for coming in. Jamie, I want to start with you. Why is this coming up now? This section of the 9/11 report talks about specific sources of foreign support for the 19 hijackers, 15 of whom were Saudis. It has come up before, but two congressmen recently read it and want it declassified. You've covered it extensively. What do you know about what's in those 28 pages from your reporting?
Well, I don't know exactly what's in it, but I can tell you from a number of congressional sources I have that I've talked to over the years, we know that it basically illuminates the financial connections between the 9/11 hijackers, the Saudi government, and also the mysterious Saudis who lived in San Diego and other places who were connected both to the hijackers and to the Saudi government. It really puts a sharper focus on the financial support that members of the Saudi government gave to the hijackers and to these kind of recondite, mysterious Saudis who lived in San Diego and in Sarasota, Florida, and a few other cities around the country.
Now, Craig, given all the reporting you've done going back 12 years on these Saudi connections, does any of this surprise you?
It doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, this has been a cover-up going back more than 10 years. When I started on it, there was massive circumstantial evidence that the Saudis were behind it. It was not revealed in the 9/11 report. I tried to get those 28 pages. Of course, they've been classified ever since. Now there's much more circumstantial evidence, and it's good to see that the issue is still alive. The question is, why has there been a cover-up, and will it come out now?
Well, given the importance of this being the biggest domestic terrorist attack ever, that this has not come out. Now, of course, it's classified still, so it's tough to get someone who's actually read it and for someone to actually say what's in there. But former senator and chairman of the Senate Select Intelligence Committee, Bob Graham, was pretty candid about what's in those pages during an interview he gave Monday.
Well, the 28 pages are essentially about who financed 9/11. Saudi Arabia represented 15 of the 19 hijackers in terms of their country of nationality, so it would not be a stretch to suggest that some portion of their financial support for the extended period of time and very expensive activities such as taking flight lessons that they undertook while they were here came from sources that had Saudi Arabia as their origin.
Again, he's being pretty clear. And Jamie, you spoke with Graham, and he told you that he was convinced that the Saudi government was involved in this. He said the Saudi government, without question, was supporting the hijackers who lived in San Diego. So he's basically telling us flat out that the Saudis financed the hijackers. Why is he the only one out there saying this?
You know, it's confounding to me. I've been covering this story as well for a decade. I've been the San Diego correspondent for Newsweek for all these years. And to me, it's an unanswered mystery, and it's good that they're finally coming back to this now. This new bipartisan effort to get these 28 pages unclassified, declassified, so that the American public can really finally find out. And it doesn't answer all the questions, these 28 pages, but it clearly tells us a little bit more that Americans, I think, deserve to know.
Now, Craig, on the other hand, Lee Hamilton, who was the vice chairman of the 9/11 Commission that authored the report, has said that they went to Saudi Arabia, that they investigated in Saudi Arabia, and that they did not find any hard evidence that linked the hijackers to the Saudi government.
Right, but you have to look at the context during which the cover-up began. I mean, the Bush family was very, very close personally and politically to the royal Saudi family. Prince Bandar, the Saudi ambassador to the U.S., was close personal friends with the George H.W. Bush Sr. He was even known as Bandar Bush. They had business deals together in the Carlyle Group. And Saudi Arabia was an ally. We relied on them for oil. We were ginning up for a war with Iraq. Revealing the Saudi connection at that point would have been explosive and damaging to both the Saudis and to the Bush administration.
Yeah, and Bandar was a popular guy and spoke English beautifully, and there are reports that some money that he may have sent to people who may have supported some of the hijackers. Now, a decade ago, Jamie, 46 senators led by Chuck Schumer of New York demanded in a letter to President Bush that he declassify the 28 pages, saying protecting the Saudi regime by eliminating any public penalty for the support given to terrorists from within its borders would be a mistake. Do you think that the issue is that it's circumstantial evidence that's not enough to really pin a sponsor of terrorism on the Saudi state?
You know, I have to believe that if Saudi Arabia were not an ally, that we would have found more reason to suggest that it was a state-sponsored terrorist attack. I think there is plenty of evidence. Some of it may be circumstantial, but it all adds up to, at the very least, members of the Saudi government clearly were supporting the hijackers and or supporting these men I told you about from Saudi Arabia who were living in the United States. So there's clearly a connection. Whether it was a quote-unquote state-sponsored, terrorism act, we may never know that, but we do know that there were direct connections and there were financial links, and that alone, that sort of begs the question: why have we not gotten to the bottom of this? There's so many unanswered questions. I've been trying to find out the answers, for the past decade, and it's like I said, we're finally seeing some congressional turnaround here on bipartisan support for, looking into this again. Senator Bob Graham, wants to reopen the 9/11 investigation, and I think that would probably be a good idea. But will it ever happen? It's unlikely.
Now, Craig, you in your book focus a lot on that Saudi airlift where all sorts of Saudis, including members of the bin Laden family, were taken out of the United States within days of 9/11 because of fears for their security. Do you think there was anything involved there, that any of those people might have been involved in supporting these terrorists?
Well, even if they weren't involved, what doesn't make sense is even in the most ordinary murder, you investigate a lot of people who are not guilty. You interrogate the relatives of the suspects and so forth. And here you had dozens of relatives of the bin Laden family. It's amazing to me that they were not detained and seriously interrogated in terms of their relationships. I mean, one thing you find in all this is it's a very, very slippery slope. I think Jamie's absolutely right in terms of getting hard evidence that a lot of Saudis give massive amounts, especially these billionaires, give massive amounts to charities. The charities in turn give to other charities. Some of those end up going to Al-Qaeda.
As we found out in the days after 9/11, that many of those charities ended up being put on the terrorist list because of where they were sending their money.
Absolutely.
And now I know that the congressmen are hoping that these pages will be declassified. I know they've said that it's mostly about relationships and that it shouldn't stay classified. So we'll stay on top of it. And good to have you guys with us. And if they do get declassified, I hope you'll come back and talk to us. Craig Unger and Jamie Reno, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.